Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to speak about the drones. It is not so much about the AI as it's about the context for the AI. Basically, what I wanted to talk about is context of using drones, UAVs, in in a situation where you have a crisis context, when you have the multiple actors willing to use airspace, and in this context, the UAVs is something which really can bring additional value. Just to give you a wider context about us as a crisis information center, we are really focusing on providing the right information for the right people at the right time, and part of this is working with the innovative solutions and really looking for the ways to provide the optimized information and filter out all the content. In that sense, AI is exactly what brings the added value from the drones. We've been fully aware about the problems of using the UAVs together with the human-operated aircraft. This was the case in Poland of the year 2020, the largest wildfire in the recent history, where we had multiple planes and helicopters conducting firefighting operations, which made it almost impossible to use the UAVs to provide information, to provide strategic overview of the situation, of the developments on the ground. We tried to identify and then demonstrate the ways how these difficulties can be minimized. They cannot be completely overcome, but at least they can be minimized. And what we are really doing right now is trying to build upon these findings to generate the IT systems which are addressing those things which Emil already mentioned on the AI list, if you wish, to minimize the difficulties on the operator side, to find yourself in the context of the air traffic management, to conduct your actual flights. In future, if we think about the AI in drones, we are also talking about the automatic flights or autonomous flights. Then we really need to provide a lot of information to them to be able to conduct the operations without the intervention of the human. And on the other hand, we have the problem of understanding the area around you to ensure that you are aware about any risks, about other drones, about other human operated aircraft, which can represent a risk for you, and you can be a danger for them. And this is again something which the IT systems which we are supporting development, this process is based on the findings from this exercise. So we just used our cooperation, very good cooperation with the Polish Fire Service, and we presented a concept of how both challenges which I mentioned, so the simultaneous use of unmanned and manned aviation and the continuous use of UAVs to provide useful information for the people on the ground, how they can be addressed. And what is interesting, we used something which is called a driver plus approach, the trial approach. We built a kind of an experiment into the firefighting exercise. Of course, it was something which was not evaluated in the sense that any mistakes or problems which we experienced were not considered to be a failures of the people. It was just the result of the experiment. But it is a very useful approach. This is something which now the number of centers around Europe are using as a trialing, as a way to really understand better how to work with the innovative solutions. So we developed a specific model of air traffic organization, which we implemented during the exercise. We created a concept of the air operations coordinate support team because this is a new function which is used in the Polish State Fire Service, air operation coordinator. But we gave him additional support. And also we built a concept of the strategic UAV monitoring, meaning the use of drones for providing the overview of the situation. And all this led to building this IT system, which I mentioned already, the Search and Help, it's a name. This is something which hopefully within 18 months will be becoming operational as part of the Polish air traffic management architecture for drones. So we've been doing this, and in reality, we established the restricted airspace volume for the exercise. It was established in reality before the exercise, but the exercise was part of the time when this was also played, if you wish. So the actual airspace management was an element of the exercise. We activated this air operations coordinator who was really able to understand the situation in the air and coordinate activities. We were able to provide a continuous coordination of flights of human-operated and UAV craft. We had UAVs flying at the strategic level, strategic in terms of the crisis situation, so meaning a few hundred meters. In our case, it was normally 300, 350 meters and above. So they were flying actually above the helicopters and the firefighting planes. And of course, we at the same time had a tactical use of UAVs, so those who are conducting their duties close to the ground. And all these things were happening at the same time. Which is normally unachievable, or at least it had been unachievable 2 years ago during the real crisis which I mentioned, this largest wildfire. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is that through the exercise and trialing, you really can verify and improve the operational concepts and technical solutions, enabling overcoming difficulties, in this case, the difficulty of how to make drones usable at the time when you are conducting a major crisis activity. And what we have learned? Of course, we have learned a lot about the airspace management and how important it is. And it is clear that it is critical. You need to close the area for all uninvolved flights. You need to easily introduce these restrictions, and I'm proud to say that Poland is one of the very few countries which have a technical systems now which enable this, which enable us to do this. We can have within a few minutes a message for all drone pilots that this is the area where you are not allowed to fly, that there is a crisis here, and you as a non-participant are simply given a red light, you cannot fly. It's not so easy to be done for the human-operated aviation, but still it's possible. And our lesson is clearly that we need the IT solutions to do both. So the crisis managers need to be able to talk to aviation through the IT system. Hey guys, now this area is closed. We are doing a lot of difficult stuff here and we don't want you here. And this is exactly what's going to happen. And as I said, within 1.5, 2 years from now, we are expecting this to be operational. Then it is something more difficult. You have a flight separation. Then in the previous point, I was just talking about having the airspace reserved for the crisis. And now we are talking about safety of flights related to the crisis within this area. When you work with the altitude separation, you are relatively successful. You can, assuming you are in a full-time communication with the players and the pilots, you can have the separation of altitudes for the tactical drones, human-operated aircraft, and strategic drones. And you can even adjust this according to the situation, to the meteorological conditions, and so on. We did not experience any safety concerns. It is not so easy when you talk about the horizontal separation. So on this side of the river, you can fly. On the other, you cannot, because there are firefighting planes conducting their activities there. This is something which you need to communicate, and this is exactly the area where IT solutions are so critical, to enable exchanging of information about this. I'm flying in this area, they are flying in this area, so we are safe. But if I want to move here and this area is not empty, I cannot do it safely. This is the message which I really need to have as an as a UAV pilot. And if we are able to create the environment, IT environment, to exchange this kind of information, you can implement the AI solutions to really have sensors and get information and then build the picture of the crisis. Of course, we can also expect that AI might have its own role in actually sharing and recommending the separation and the procedures used by the aviation and by the drones. But in reality, the order must be like this. We establish the IT system, and only then we start to accumulate experience to have the advanced IT solutions working on them to optimize. And establishing something new in aviation, as some of you might know, is not easy. It's a very conservative world. That's why I'm very proud of, I'm really proud of what we are doing. And it looks like we will be doing this successfully. Air operations coordination is something very much in a soft part. It's less about IT, it's more about having people from the crisis management community and the people from the aviation community, or precisely air traffic management community, talking together. They are sharing the experiences, they are working together, they are able to learn what the others need. So it is not the crisis managers who try do something very difficult, which is the air traffic management. It is the professionals who are doing this for them. Of course, we are not going to use this kind of mechanism for minor events, but apparently every few years, and probably now every few events every year, we will be needing this kind of support, and that's why we are doing this. And then we are having a few lessons which are very specific. I think they might be interesting. But first, maybe the movie. What you can see here is the activity of the firefighting plane, more or less normal. But what is interesting, you see this recorded by the camera which was on the strategic drone. You will see in a moment that behind this plane you have the actual helicopters flying to assess the efficiency of the firefighting drop. And at the same time, you had UAVs on the tactical level conducting their flights just a few minutes before, close to the area which we see now. All these things could have been done simultaneously, because we have the environment to sharing information and ensuring safety of all these flights. It is only this this approach and this safety which enables you to talk about the using of drones in complex situations and getting information from these drones to support crisis management activities. So clearly the human-operated aircraft are something which can have a huge synergy with UAVs if you are able to provide this air traffic management safety. What is also interesting, this will remain a critical element. This is something which Tinus already shown when showing the old ladies being the old-style natural sensors. But that's very much true. You having the person on board the aircraft, on board the helicopter, you are getting much more information through he or she is getting much more information through her eyes because she can turn her head. It's very natural to understand the situation and the context when you look at it. It's not so easy when you just use the camera. You can still get a lot from the camera, but we need to keep the human this possibility to have a human there to get this information and understanding. At the same time, you can have strategic UAVs, in this case, in the logic which I'm talking about, above the human-operated aircraft, which gives you an ongoing situation monitoring. It gives you ability to rapidly assess the situation and understand the changes in that situation. And what is very important, this data can be provided to multiple points. That's one of the beauties of the strategic monitoring. It is not the single operator who is getting this. It is the overall picture which is provided to multiple users who are sharing the same understanding of the situation. And as a result, they are much more effective. And the lower picture on this slide is showing exactly this. Giving the commanders a strategic overview of the situation, we ended up with the command post, moving from the tent to the place where they've been able to see in the field the aerial image of the situation. This was exactly what they needed to take proper decisions, to the extent that they just moved themselves and they've been spending most of the time standing next to the screens to understanding better what is going on, taking better decisions and just communicating them through the radio. And of course, all this can happen at the same time as the local tactical activities of the UAVs are conducted. They are safe because they are coordinated, and you are having all the benefits which are normally related to this. Summarizing, this approach with the trialing is also something which I want to emphasize. It is not only about understanding what could be done, it is about making this or evaluating this in a realistic environment and learning from this environment. And this trialing is really something which allowed us to assess the functionality of the solutions which were demonstrated and now are considered for implementation, but also assess organizational approaches to using these new solutions, how to structure the user side of the story to be able to absorb the new possibilities. And finally, in the context of the IT systems, we were able to define functional requirements. We much better know what we want to achieve, designing and developing the IT system for this kind, for supporting this kind of activities. It's clear that this is something which is worth sharing in the European context. That's exactly why I'm talking about this here, and I think it's also something which may be very beneficial for the knowledge network purpose for sharing the knowledge within this mechanism. I think this is the future. That it is not only a picture which you are getting from the drone, but the drone is really able to be a part of the complex operation. It is a safe element. It's able to fly safely, and consequently, it can be a permanent source of information. You can assume that you will be getting this type of support, and then you are really getting information which is not only a picture, but through the artificial intelligence analysis, you can get this analyzed, you can get these geopositions, you can have it on the map, you can have this in the optimized form, in the future, possibly also you can have some more advanced analysis on the basis of this information. But even just having the information structured and geospatialized, if you wish, this is something which is a major difference between the situation as of today and what AI can do in one or two relatively simple steps. So concluding, if you really want to use UAVs, you need a dedicated approach for air traffic management. You need to have the future UTM or DTM systems remembering about the needs of the crisis management. And on the other hand, you really need to focus on ensuring that the flow of information to users is effective, it's optimized, and this is exactly which, in our view, in my view, the AI can bring a major added value. And I think this is going to happen because really, if you look at the crisis from the higher perspective, you are getting a much better understanding and you are taking better decisions. And that's exactly what you want. Thank you very much.